Everybody having a good time? How good of a time? We're celebrating Dream Cruise. How bad can it be, right? Hey, thanks again for joining us. I'm Dave Sherman here with M1 Concourse. As promised, we are launching our very first Woodward Dream Show, and as a part of it, we're calling it the M1 Insiders Garage. So to host our panel discussion with the garage, the host of Big Jim's House, Jim O'Brien, our friend Jim. Take it away, my friend.
It's an honor. Hi, everybody. I also host Big Jim's Garage podcast, and as Ken knows, I've stalked him multiple times. You guys are all going to get a call and beyond. But first things first, I wanted to take a moment and thank everybody here at M1. Pretty damn cool, isn't this? This is what it's about. Absolutely. To my immediate left, the man that has inspired so many people in the Motor City and around the world, and you create dreams for a lot of kids with the shows you've done. Bob Larrabee, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you, and great pleasure to be here. And look forward to this. It's going to be fun.
You started, we were talking about this, you started Autorama, well, at Callahan Hall, right? But technically it was.
We call it the University of Detroit Field House, but I didn't actually start it. It was started by the Michigan Hot Rod Association.
Right.
I was a member of it, and eventually was elected to the board, and then in 1961 took over producing the show and did so for the next 34 years.
Amazing. How many people here have been to Autorama? Yeah, right? I mean, absolutely. We'll be talking about that. All right, next up. Chuck, is that your car over there with the shiny stuff on it? Is that yours? Is that yours, the one right there? It's kind of hard to find.
That one?
Is that one yours? Chuck Miller, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, that was mine.
Well, tell everybody how you got into this and some of the vehicles that we all know, these iconic vehicles.
Well, I've been doing this ever since high school. Then I worked at a body shop. When I was 16, when I was 20, I bought the shop and then started building whatever I could at the time, and got to know Bob and started building a lot of cars for him. But I did build the original 69, in 69 was the Red Baron.
Absolutely. That car. How many pictures do you think have been taken to that car?
Oh. Quite a few.
Quite a few.
Quite a few.
Ladies and gentlemen, next, a good friend of the station and the show and the community and what you do, not only with your collection, but I've seen time and time again, the open houses of the Langenfelter collection, and you step up in the community. Ladies and gentlemen, Ken Langenfelter.
Hey, Jim.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
It's good to be here. It's good to be out.
Sure is. Yep.
And your collection, and it's right, you've, in a normal year, you'll do what, close to 100 events out there? Is that fair?
You know, probably more like 60.
Okay.
But
I'm a guy, everything's bigger. We do
yeah,
that. That's just a thing.
Yeah, in a normal year, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And you've been helping out charities and also your love of cars. What was your first car?
Well, my first car was an XK Jaguar, believe it or not. It was,
Really?
Yeah, it was to be, kind of redone and everything else, and it never really got past that. So I ended up driving a lot of very smaller cars in order to get that thing fixed. But, back in those days, too, we used to take our own cars, our drivers that got us back and forth to work and things like that, to the racetrack. So I was always in the shop with a car that needed to be done, needed to be fixed.
It always cracks me up that some of the cars in your collection you use as a daily driver.
Yeah, I love them. And there's this new C8 Corvette I've got sitting right out here, this white one. What an amazing car. Absolutely. Of course, this Stuntoff Mule car is mine as well. Same colors. But we've come a long way from that to that, believe me.
All right, next up we have the Ring Brothers. We're supposed to introduce you guys together, right?
Perfect.
What happens if you guys are apart more than 10 miles for any period of time? Does anyone go crazy or?
We get along a lot better.
That's what I was gonna ask. All right, Jim and Mike Ring here. Now you guys started. Tell everybody how you guys started. How did the business start?
Well, we started in our mother's garage just for the love of cars. Had no other place to work, but I went off and I was a crane operator, and Mike was working for another company. I decided I didn't want to do that. We come back. I started a small body shop, and asked my brother to come back with me, and this is where we're at today with you fine folks.
How many times did he ask you to come back? Just once, or was it a couple times?
He needed some money, so
And how many years now have you guys been doing this?
Since '94, I moved back, and Jim started probably late '80s, early '90s, and I moved back in '94.
Now, the Blizzard and some of the cars too, are they all your kids? When someone asks you, like, what's your favorite car, that's not fair to anybody, is it? It's like picking your favorite kid.
You know, the funny part is we've never really built ourselves a car. It was always for a customer. So
Come on.
what
What do you mean never?
I personally don't own a car, and
Is that right?
We can't afford what we build.
All right, now Wayne, Chasing Classic Cars, obviously. Wayne Carini, tell us a little bit, how did you get into this? How did you start with this passion for chasing cars?
My father founded the Model A Restorers Club in 1951. He was a professional restorer. That's what he did for a living when I was growing up. So it was just, it was in my blood. He put a piece of sandpaper in my hand when I was 6 years old, and he says, okay, go like this, and hasn't stopped. And then Chasing Classic Cars was just a fluke of really good luck. Somebody read an article about me in the New York Times, and Jim Ostrowski was the head of my production company, and there was the train.
That's the old 505 that was supposed to be in Chicago at 3, right? Is that pretty much how it works? Okay.
So anyways, Chasing Classic Cars is on Wednesdays at 10 on Motor Trend, if anybody wants to know.
And we know.
We are on our 16th season, and we're the longest running, continuously running automobile show in the world. So we're real proud of that.
Fantastic. Yeah, a round of applause for that. That's fantastic. The first thing I wanted to bring up to the panel, and as I look around, and Ken, you pointed out the C8, and I see we got a Shelby's. That's 500 or 350? That's a 500, right? Anyway, we're seeing horsepower numbers now that we've never seen in production cars. And I don't know, like, as a fan, as a guy, I see more horsepower, it's better. I got to get more horsepower. Does that translate to inspiration? Is it a real thing? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, well, is it just a number, or it really means something when you've got 700 horsepower under the hood?
Well, I was always brought up on the fact that there was never enough horsepower. So you just keep trying to find more and more and more, and that's exactly what's happening right now. We've got some amazing products that are available from all the OEMs with regard to horsepower, and obviously just because of the things we do, we found ways to find even more. So it's all driven by passion, Jim, all of it.
And that's telling that story, and I'm sure you guys, like the Ring Bar, you guys both see that. People come to you, and they maybe have, how many people that come to you for a product maybe they've got a Shelby, a new one, and then they want an old one to go with it. Is that a common theme where people come to you that way?
we, believe it or not, done that for a gentleman. You know, we built him a 65 Fastback, and they wanted a Shelby to match it, so we did that for him. But talking about horsepower, it's truly amazing what is available, even, you know, through Crate Motors. We had a guy send his 69 Charger back to us from overseas. It had a 392 Hemi in it, said it didn't have enough horsepower. So now we put that new Elephant, which is a 1,000 horsepower motor in this thing, and to me it's too much for the car. But these guys want horsepower.
Anyone else? I mean, when you see the horsepower numbers, and obviously you can have all the horsepower you want, but if you can't get it to the rear, what's the point, right?
I think that's what's with the new Corvette. I mean, so we see the Demon, 840 horsepower, but it sits there and smokes the tires, where the Corvette's a faster 0 to 60 time. So it's hooking up, and I think that's the big thing with the new Mustang too. It's how it hooks up. If you want to do burnouts, it's one thing, and lift the front wheels off the ground. But if you want to go 0 to 60 the fastest, I remember the fastest 0 to 60 car, I think it was in 1961, was a Catalina 2+2 with a 421 with tri-power. That big car would do 0 to 60 in like 5.5 seconds. It was unbelievable time.
And now you're seeing okay, so mid-60s, what was a normal range for what you would call a muscle car? Horsepower-wise, what would be one? If you're talking like a Chevelle or a Nova or a Camaro, like a 68 Camaro.
Under 400, Jim.
Well under 400 though, right?
396 they had a 396 that did 375 horsepower. That was one of the best products out at that time.
So were there cars here in Woodward, though, that we knew about? Like, Bob, were there cars that were just big horsepower cars that everybody knew about, like the Silver Bullet, for example? Like rumored cars, you know, that everybody had just crazy horsepower in the day?
Today, you mean?
Yeah, but well, not back in the day. Like, I mean, you always heard about these cars.
Well, I didn't do any cruising in those days.
What do you mean?
I got married when I was 21. I had 4 kids by the time I was 25. I didn't have time.
Okay, so you're out here
But-
living now. Okay.
But anyway, I was racing circle track. And for me, we were running 550 horsepower in a small block, and that was a lot. In you know, even in the 60s, 550 horsepower dyno tested was a lot of horsepower on a small track.
Say, Chuck, you're just amazed by what we're getting in new cars? I mean, just the horsepower is insane.
Yeah, but like they say, if you can't use it, is that really what you want? I don't know. I always liked Shelby Mustangs and Trans Ams and things like that. They were always a lot of fun to drive, but I don't think I abused them. My daughter would have to answer that.
So we look at a place like M1, we're out here today, and we're seeing the passion of people that not only want to have a car that's fun, whether, you know, a classic car, a resto mod, whatever they're doing with it, but they want it to be functional. They want to be able to go on the track out here. They want to turn some laps and things like that. Does that change how you approach in an industry? Like, I'll start with you, Ken. Like, how you build cars for customers, that maybe they're going to be using them differently than they were 5 years ago?
Well, I think, too, you know, the fact is that there is so much available, and there are different ideas. I mean, resto mods are a really big deal right now, obviously. You know, there's the old cars. Everybody likes the old car look, but we've been spoiled also. The cars are so good today. The tires, you know, you can stop on time. The steering, I mean, the cars themselves are so good that, you know, they like the old look, but they want to be able to get comfortable when they're going to hit the brakes if they can stop. And so as a result, that's having a big influence on the market as well.
You guys seeing the same thing? Where, like, you know, the new cars are just so much fun to drive that what does that second car become, that toy?
You're right. I mean, it's a big thing to talk to a new customer about. If you think this thing's going to run with the new Vet, you know, it's not going to happen. I mean, there's no guys in a garage going to throw what GM or anybody builds to perform what they're doing today. It's amazing how good these cars are. And honestly, that's why we kept our small collision shop, is so that we can continue to tear them new cars apart and try to incorporate as much of that in our builds, because if anybody knows, the OE, anything you can take from the OE's switches, latches, it's all so proven. It just makes your builds that much better. So the collision part that we maintain is just basically for knowledge, to see how these cars are continually made.
Chuck, do you look at some of the new cars? Do you like the design cues? You have to look at cars differently than we do. I mean, your creative nature. Do you look at a new car differently?
Yeah.
No, seriously, what do you
No.
look at when you see it? I mean,
No,
you look at a front fascia and
you look at the styling of them and all of this, but I look at it, well, what can I do to it now? I want to change it. You know, I want to paint it. But some of the colors and the paint on these cars are just dynamite. You hate to even mess with them. They're so nice. The quality control in the companies are spot on.
So we're past the day of the Monday car, where you don't get in a certain day, look underneath, make sure you got a certain, get in a certain time.
Yeah, but that's kind of what I look at is, boy, that's a nice line on that, but how could it be two-toned or, you know, something like that? That's what I kind of look at.
So again, it comes back to like this is like a renaissance period. I don't even know the term muscle car applies anymore, does it? Just, is performance better? Is that a better way of saying it?
I think that's where it's at. A lot of it is the performance, you know, just like they're saying. You know, what people want is fast and horsepower. That's it.
And places in like Roadkill Nights here, last week, I mean, how many people did we have? What, 10, 12,000 people out here? And there was a line of cars waiting to run an eighth of a mile on Woodward just to say they did it.
Right, yeah.
But you never did that because you had 37 kids and you were married twice by the time you were 12. So,
Yeah.
did you ever drag race Woodward? Come on, you got to open it up on Woodward once.
Actually, I was in a club, MMAC, that was one of the founding clubs of the Michigan Hot Rod Association. But we didn't go to Woodward. We went to Northwestern Highway.
Really?
Which was wide open, and there was a drive-in on the corner of 9 Mile and Northwestern, and we went there after our meetings all the time, and you could race out Northwestern as far and as fast as you wanted to go.
I'm afraid if I even say burnout on Woodward or Cop,
in
we'll get
fact, that was a hangout of Jim Wanger's, and somebody had mentioned Jim Wanger's at our little meeting, and that's where he liked to go because you could run flat out.
put a little tiger in the back of that goat with him.
Yeah.
I still that tiger tail thing. That's a thing. So Wayne, like for you, you chase so many cars. Obviously, what you've done now for so many years. Are you in love with the new cars? You were telling a great story before we came out here about the Shelby, right?
Yeah, I have way too many cars, but never enough. But I never bought a new car for myself until about 5 years ago, and now I've started to buy cars. I bought a new Corvette. I just bought a new Shelby because I saw one go by and it was beautiful, and I had to have one. And so, you know, new cars become something different in my collection, and I really love them. I've got a Shelby GT350, 1965. It's probably one of my favorite cars in my collection. It drives so well. So every car's got a purpose, and it puts a different smile on your face, and I think that's what is unique about owning different cars. You know, I just gave my 5-year-old grandson a 1916 Pierce Arrow because he loved the car, and so now he's hooked. And I think that's something that we really all should think about doing, is getting young people involved in different ways. And now, of course, it's his 6th birthday in 2 weeks, and he wondered which car he's getting this year. So
That's on you.
But he's already got 12 cars in the collection earmarked for him, so why not give it to him now when he can really appreciate it? You know, we just built the Mole Speedway at a Steve Mole shop out in Oakland, and he'll probably get the Mole for Christmas this year. So we'll skirt the issue of his birthday and not think that he's going to get one every year for his birthday.
You know, I was thinking about something else too when it comes to the future of building cars for people, you know, and the Resto-Mod again, or performance cars, whatever you want to call it. 3D printers, I don't think people understand. My son just graduated from Michigan Tech last year, and they had a metal 3D printer that they had perfected. So for you guys, well, I'll start with the Ring Brothers. You guys, does that change the game for you? I mean, it feels like it's a blank slate if that really becomes a thing, or is it already a thing?
Well, we have printers, not metal 3D printers, but
Right.
It's helped us tremendously prototyping parts out that, you know, we're either going to build for sale or on a project car. It's truly amazing what you can do today with technology, and you know, these young guys are so smart with that stuff. It's mind-boggling. Matter of fact, we had a guy today come up to us and hand me a medal, talking about metal printed. He had built me it's a shift button for a new Jeep, but he put our logo in it, but it's a stainless steel printed. It's just amazing what they can do with these printers nowadays, and the technology is definitely coming into play building these cars.
It's going to turn into a thing in the future now where you're going to have people who are experts to verify if they're real or not, right, for a lot of the things.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun if you're young and you've got, you know, it's really going to bring in the designers. I think before hot rodders didn't really, I don't know, it's going to bring a whole different facet of people in our industry that the designers are going to be really welcomed. You know, there's a lot of people that didn't really respect the design part, because if you could build something and it ran and it's cool, but now you can build anything you can imagine. So now you need a group of imaginary people, and the sky's the limit, because anything can be built right now, especially with those printers. We were so excited today to meet this kid on this metal printer.
Right.
But for this young kid to explain what he can do, it's like, boom. He had no idea what they're doing. I mean, they just randomly look to other people for what they can use that part for, and they're going to come to him with the ideas. He's just got to make it happen.
Yeah, but you know what? We have all this technology, but you have to have vision. You have to be the person that can visualize what's going on. So these guys do an unbelievable job with that vision. They look at a car and they figure it out. What can we do to make this unusual, better, greater looking, more drivable? You have to have that vision. And if you're not talented like these guys, it's just that machine sits there idle. You don't know what to do with it. And there's so many great builders across the country, not really a lot, but I mean, in these guys' level, there's only a handful. But there's other people that want to get into this, and young people that I think with colleges like McPherson College and Penn State has a program. You graduate with an automotive restoration degree, and what you do with it after that is up to you. But working with somebody like you guys or Mole or Troy or any of these guys that have vision, that's what you need. You need that vision to rub off on you, and then you can move forward.
Well, you think about it too in a larger sense, what's going on with the auto industry when you electrify vehicles and a hybrid or whatever, you're changing templates for interior that you could never consider. I've asked Ralph Gilles a couple times, and he said it's mind-boggling when they start thinking about what they can do with interiors that they couldn't do 10 years ago, how you build stuff out. I do want to talk about the design thing, though, because, Chuck, where does this come from? Where did this come from? Like when you would create a car, was it a drawing? Was it something in your mind? Seriously, what's the
No,
process?
I know what you mean. No, some of it is like on your own, but like the Red Baron, Bob saw that in a model kit form when he was in a show in Chicago.
Revell, yeah.
They were introducing all of their new models, the different toy companies, and they had a model of the Red Baron. And Bob looked at it and thought, wow, that'd really be cool if we could make a real one. So he talked to Monogram about it, and how would it be if we built a real one? You know they're not going to say no, that's only going to sell models, more money. So Bob brought a model back to me, and he came to my shop, and he said, you think you can build this? Say no to Bob Larrabee back then? Oh, no. So... No, I said, sure, I can do all that. So we started building it, and that was it, yeah.
An interesting sidelight to that is that it was the Monogram booth that I was visiting, and I happened to introduce myself to them, and Jack Besser, the president, was there, and I asked him if he would give me a royalty on the car, because the normal thing in those days was if you built a car like Roth did with Revell, that you could get a royalty on these cars, and you could get quite a bit of money on it because they virtually sold millions of them. And Jack said, well, we can't give you a royalty. In fact, we're going to have to charge you a fee. And so I was a little bit in trepidation there on the way home because I didn't know what this was going to involve. But finally, a couple weeks later, I got this 6-page contract from them. And I read through this contract, and I had trouble finding out what they wanted. And then the last paragraph, it said the fee for the right to build this car will be $10. And so that's when Chuck went ahead with it, and we had a deal.
That's how it happened.
How long did it take you to build it?
It was right around 6 months.
Come on,
It was
really?
about 6 months, yeah.
I've got IKEA furniture I haven't put together in 6 months. I do. If you want it, I'll put it on Facebook Marketplace. You can have that crap.
Yeah, but
want it.
no, it was about 6 months it took.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, I want to ask you guys. Oh, go ahead.
Let me tell you another story about the Baron, because a lot of people love that car. And the one thing that Tom Daniel did when he designed it was he simply blew down a German aircraft engine and fit it in the car. And we couldn't obviously do that, even though Chuck was sort of a magician with metal. But he came up with the idea of using the overhead Cam 6 Pontiac engine. There was only one thing wrong with it. The exhausts were on the wrong side of the car. So for all of you who ever made a model, the exhausts were on the right side. But on the real Red Baron that we built, the exhausts are on the left side.
I never noticed that. All right. Okay. Well.
Oh, yeah, that was it, because originally it's a 1914 Mercedes-Benz aircraft engine.
Seriously.
And the kit, and that engine is probably from here to that Corvette long. Way out of proportion, not going to happen. And then to put the Pontiac in there and to try to fish around pipes to come to the other side and all that, it would just look stupid. So I just put them on the left side like it looks, And Bob and I, we had it in California at the show out there, and Daniel saw it for the first time. And he just went upside down about it. You ruined my car. You ruined it. You, Joe, boy, he stomped off. He was mad because the pipes were on the wrong side.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but
He's the only guy that ever said that.
yeah, I'm sure you guys have never had to deal with people like, when you're doing, but it's always like one phone call, one email, and then they're completely happy with everything, the whole process, right? That's how it works, Ken. They just, they call you once and then done, the whole thing. All right. That car to me is a unicorn in more than one ways. One, because there's nothing like it, but two, for so many people, it's something they would want. The Bullitt Mustang, when it was found, the whole story, and we all follow along with that, it was amazing. I mean, it was here a couple of years ago. Is there a unicorn car out there for you? One that you want or one that no one's found? Can you, Johan, how many cars do you go out and get? Well, what, Chuck, is there one for you?
No, not really. Not. Well, there's a couple I'd like to find out where they are now.
Like what?
Well, the Sonic Cuda that I built.
You
Back.
don't know where it is?
Nope.
Come
no,
on.
No, gospel.
Wait a minute.
It was.
Bob just said you gave it away.
No,
So-
it was an ISCA giveaway at the end of the year for the point stander. All right. Well, Jerry Pennington from Detroit, he won it. And he drove it around on the streets and just played with it for a while. And then it went to the treatment, the wax people.
Okay.
And they had it, and they toured around to fairs and all of this stuff, drove it, and they had it all lettered up with different, products on it. Then all of a sudden, gone. Don't know where it's at.
Really?
I tried to find it in 2010 when I was Builder of the Year at Cobo, but nothing. Couldn't find it at all. No.
Ken, you go to a lot of auctions and around the world, and your collection is one of the best in the world. Is there a unicorn out there, a car that you want?
Boy, that changes on a regular basis. Right now, I'm addicted to Bring a Trailer. I don't know if anybody knows about BringATrailer.com,
absolutely,
but
right
boy,
there.
every morning my coffee is with Bring a Trailer, and then after that it's Cars and Bids, and then after that it's Hemmings, and I mean, there are cars coming to market that I always wanted, and I was telling somebody the other day, this is going to sound very strange from a horsepower guy, but last week I bought a '94 Subaru SVX. And, it's just a real icon type car, glass roof and everything else. It's something that you get inspired when you see and you remember, and then you got to have it. So,
Is there, I know you do a lot of work with Corvettes, obviously. We talk about the Mako Shark and some of the different ones. Is there one that is, what is the one for Corvette owners? Is there one like that? I mean, this could be the one sitting right here.
yeah, well, that's a pretty amazing car, believe me. To imagine this thing did about 160 miles an hour at Daytona years ago.
Good Lord.
I mean, I drove it from one of the garages up to here, and I don't want to drive it that fast, believe me. But, the fact is that for my age group, I mean, I was a teenager in the late 60s and early 70s, and that L88 Corvette was just the best of all of them. Lots of horsepower, really, really fast, and I'm going to find just the right one at some point, and I'm going to pull the trigger.
I saw there was one up for sale a couple months ago.
Well, yeah, it's got to be at the right price, though, Jim. So
I'm married with 2 kids. If if it's not in my wallet, I ain't getting it. So
when you're looking at cars, it's not just finding the car, but I mean, we can talk to Wayne about that. I mean, it's got to be at the right price too.
Yeah, but we live vicariously through you guys. We're like, Wayne, get that car. Go get that car. Ken, get that car. Go get it. I don't care how much money you spend. Get that car for us so we can see it.
There's only one car that I wonder, where it went. It was a car, it was a Torino that my dad bought. My brother Mike and I, when I was 15, he was 16, he had his driver's license. And we fixed the car all up, painted it, and him and his buddies took it out, and I've never seen it again. So I'm really curious to where that car Dad bought half for me went.
Come on. Where'd it go?
Junkyard.
No. Just shatter. I didn't mean to bring. I apologize now. I'm kind of poking the bear there. I didn't mean to.
That's not as bad as, I wonder where I went in the Navy in 1981. I had a 69 GTO convertible in Mom's basement. I came home on leave, went down to see my car. I looked at Jim, I said, "Where's my car?" "Oh, I sold it." "Well, where's the money?" "I spent it."
Payback's pretty tough,
Yeah, I
ain't
was
it?
going to say, payback's a beat. Wow. Well, thanks for your service, too. What'd you do in the Navy?
I was a rescue swimmer in the Navy.
Okay. I was in the submarine service. You didn't rescue us.
Oh,
No,
yeah, I was
thank
in
you for your service,
ASW
though.
too.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you for your service. Wayne, you and I were talking about this before we came out. A unicorn car for you, you've spent so many years just looking for cars.
Well, you know, you make a list as you're growing up, and you say to yourself, you fantasize about a car, and then one day you get it, and you go, oh, that's okay. And then you fantasize about another car, and it just keeps moving like that, you know. I had to have a vintage Bentley, and I found one and I bought it. I had to have a Stutz Bearcat. Luckily, I found one and I bought it and sold it. But it's constantly changing, you know. It all depends on events you go to. So, for instance, I wanted to go to Bonneville. I bought a Bonneville car. I went 2 weeks ago. We blew the transmission the first run, but I'm just getting over that. But I think for me, it's probably about a 1914 Mercer Raceabout. I think that's a car that I'll probably never get to own, but yet it's always on that list, and you never know.
That little short list.
Short
What's
list,
the value-
absolutely.
What's the value of a car like that?
Oh, probably about $5 million.
Well, they had it, but
That's
he
why
sold
I'll
it.
never
Yeah.
get one.
Yeah. Yeah, he sold it already while you were looking for it. It's gone. He spent the money, too. It's gone.
It was in your garage
It was in
before,
the
right?
garage, yeah.
But
I sold
Ken's
it
the
short.
same way as me. I mean, you know, it's always evolving. It's always changing. We were sitting in an auction together one day out in Indiana, and a 67 Cadillac Eldorado in black comes up, and he goes, "Oh my God, I love that car." And I said, "Well, I think you should buy it." So he starts bidding on it. He says, "I really love. What do you think about that car?" I said, "Well, it's mine. Keep bidding. Keep going." So I help him out whatever I can.
I was thinking about this too, and so many what the work you guys do, especially you cars made to order. I mean, obviously, what you guys do, it's made to order. You don't just go and pick one up. You do that. But we're seeing more and more in the auto industry where they're asking you to order your car, whether it's the chip issue or whatever. But I kind of feel like we're going to go down that road where you may not go to the showroom and get that car that day. Is that okay for you guys as enthusiasts? Is it to make maybe more options available? Because growing up, we would spend a night going over all the options of a car. My dad and I would sit there at the table, and you didn't just get a Firebird. You sat down and figured out exactly what you wanted. He bought an Esprit with white walls on it, but I don't want to talk about that. But are we going to get to that point where consumers are going to say, okay, I want that 500, but I want this changed, and I want that, and I'll wait a couple weeks or a month or two to get the car?
Well, I think that's been going on for years. I remember going to the Cadillac dealer with my grandmother when I was 10 years old, and I had to get dressed up in a suit to go to the Cadillac dealer and order her car. And
Yeah.
it took about 8-10 weeks to get it. But it was that experience. It was part of the process. Now you go on your computer and you can do the same thing. But I think for transportation cars, whatever's on the lot, look at Carvana or any of these things, they order the car and it's in their driveway in about a half an hour. I think that's why auctions are so popular too, because it's instantaneous gratification that you see something, you look at it, you can buy it, and you can take it home the same day. So there's people like that, but there's people like me and like the Ring brothers and Ken and all these guys that want to create something. They want to build something, and the process of building it is almost as exciting as having the car. You know, I built cars with Steve Moll, and he says, "Oh, it's great, but when we're done, then what?" You know, it's that process, and we enjoy that. Some people don't enjoy it at all, but I think it's exciting.
Yeah, I've got a friend that does he builds cars, and Doug does amazing. Doug Benziger, he's done some amazing work, and he always says, "I'm going to keep this car." I'll let the train go. That's the 4 o'clock train for Chicago. Same thing. Doug would finish the car and he'd go, "Yep, I'm keeping this Firebird." A month later, it's at Barrett Jackson, and he's on to his next car. It's part of the process, but I kind of like it. I mean, that we're being we're personalizing our cars. But do you guys enjoy that process as much? Can you do that with Langenfelter collection cars, right? When someone orders one?
Oh, yeah, there's no question about it. But I was just thinking, too, you know, the really best way to order a new C8 Corvette is to go up online and build it yourself. I mean, the site is so friendly. It's so easy to do, and you can switch things around and change things around. It's just the way it's going to be. I have no problem with that at all, and glad to be doing it that way.
How much, when people interact with you guys for when they want to build, how much is done over the net versus on a phone call or a Zoom or in person?
Obviously, these cars are all rendered and then rendered again and changed, and until you come up with a plan that the owner is, agrees to and likes, it takes a lot of time up front before you even start building the car. But it's a great process because, they know what to expect in the end, and some of the people that we have involved, I have the name of Gary Regal, and these guys are just amazing artists that can show the people what they're going to get in the end. So it's our job to build that picture. So it's a fun process.
Was it so Bob, like with Autorama, when some of the fancier cars, the Riddler winners or the guys, the people, how many people would contact you and go, I got something's going to blow your doors off. Wait till you see this. Were you aware of what was coming to Autorama? They would tell you, I've done this with a Charger. Wait till you see it, or was just wait till it shows up?
Well, I wasn't, because all entries go through the Michigan Hot Rod Association.
So you didn't really know what? Okay.
Yeah, right. We didn't handle entries. Those entries, even today, are handled by MHRA. So I never got to see them ahead of time. Once in a while, somebody would tell me what they've got coming, and I would get excited about it. I like to go to speed shops and the guys that build these cars, and often I would run into somebody that's building a car, like Troy Trepannier's shop, say, in Illinois, and so forth. But I'm sure that the guys in MHRA are very excited when they get these entries, and they're looking forward to getting them, to seeing what kind of cars they're going to get and how great they're going to be. So it's a lot of fun.
I'm sure you had a lot of shops though, over the years that were asking you, like, all right, well, what do you think about the direction we're going with this car? Do you like what we're doing? Is this something that could win us an award?
That's probably true. I tried not to play favorites. We built a lot of feature cars,
Right.
but a lot of those were sort of cars like the Roth types of cars and the Bears types of cars. And Chuck built a lot of cars for us, and a guy named Rod Powell, who's was a really well-known builder in California, in Salinas. He built a lot of cars for us, like the Mork machine, the Pac-Man car, and stuff like that. Some of them were sort of crazy cars, but I would be approached, and you had mentioned this before, but by guys who sometimes came up with designs, and the guy that came up with the most designs was Larry Wood, who was the chief designer at Mattel and Hot Wheels, and he always had crazy ideas and would send me drawings and stuff. Bob, you ought to build this, Maybe we did, and maybe we didn't, but it was always exciting.
Chuck, were you a drawing guy? Did you draw? How do you doodle this stuff, or just?
Just small stuff, none to the extent of these guys that he's talking about. No, but I did some designing and stuff of that. And, like the fire truck, I won the Riddler in '68 with that, the year before the Red Baron. So
the fire truck, when you started versus what it became at the end, was that the plan, or it just kind of evolved as you were building it?
It just happened that I finished it in time for Autorama in '68, all right? And then I won the Riddler Award, and that's when MPC approached me about building a model of it, so they made a model of it after. Then in '69, that's when Bob came to me with the model of the Red Baron. Then that's when I built that one. But now this Red Baron here, that was just built in 2019. Just a couple years ago.
Oh, okay.
That's number 2. That's 50 years since I built the original one. In fact, the helmet on this one came out of the same mold as the first one. So it's pretty close to the original one.
All right, I'm going to bring up something that could, it's stunning. Now, I'm going to bring up something that could be sacrilege to some people. Foreign cars, foreign build cars. When it comes to performance cars, we talk about muscle cars and performance cars, and you've seen it now. Nissan's brought back the Z, right? And even Acura brought back the Integra. Not a performance car, but still acknowledging the name, doing that. Are we going to get to a point where we already have? I love Woodward for that reason. I see I see Z clubs out there, and I see people driving all makes and models of cars. Is that something like, and I apologize for not knowing this, is there a Restomod Z? Is there something like that you can do? Have you guys dealt with that stuff, or no?
No, it's really,
aware of it, though.
It's really cool, though. I honestly, I'd love to do some European cars, except a BMW 2002. because I'm doing one with my daughter, and it's been just a nightmare. But no, I'd like to put American Power in it.
We're actually doing a 61 Rolls Royce for a guy. He wants to be able to drive it. It's a beautiful car. It almost makes you sick to cut it up, but he wants new chassis, new powertrain. Obviously, we're going to LS it and 10-speed automatic, but he just wants something he can jump in and enjoy and drive. So it's the strangest things what people are wanting nowadays in building. We built one K5 Blazer 3 years ago, and I think we're on number 7 right now. They're just crazy. I think we just actually took another one on Friday, if I'm correct.
Have you? I'm sorry, to interrupt. Have you ever had someone come to you with a car and they want you to cut it up, and you're like, no, I'm just not. I can't. This is obscene. I can't do this.
Yeah, I mean, we've cut up some pretty nice cars, some Zs and some stuff, but I forget what it was, but we told them, we wouldn't cut that up. It was like that Shelby, I think it was like a 70. It's like, no, we're not going to do that. And there's also some that people bring to us that we just got to say no, just because of, that's the story of, I've got all this money in it, I've had it 10 places, and you're looking at it going, you just got to cut your losses. You just got to cut your losses.
Wayne, what about you? I mean, as far as looking for foreign cars and stuff, is there? Obviously, there's a market for it when we talk about BMWs and going back. Are Datsuns still as desired by a lot of people if you find them?
Yeah, I think what I'd probably focus on is looking at Ferraris and Maseratis of the 50s, 60s, and 70s and thinking, what would you do about restomodding something like that? You'd be taken out and tarred and feathered if you ever did anything like that. So the new cars, though, are just outrageous. The Paganis and all of that stuff that's being made right now. There's so many cars being made around the world that are outrageous cars. And then, of course, you've got customized Porsches, outlaw Porsches. So that's become something that everybody wants. Everybody wants an outlaw now. And so there's great builders that just do that. They have 5-6 year waiting lists for their cars, and they're costing $500,000 to $1 million to build a car. So Porsches, it's more acceptable than a Ferrari, Datsun. A lot of guys, Datsuns turn into drift cars, and so they flare the fenders and they put the bigger tires on and that stuff, and that's great. It's wonderful. But yet to do the things that these guys do, you'd have to have a special passion for that, I think.
Well, and if you can find a Fast and Furious car, it has 87 gears in it, apparently, because it's all they do is shift. There's no. Look at the face from Ken. Ken's like, good Lord. I was wondering, do you guys watch those movies and go, nope, I can't. This is just making my head hurt. No? Is that a bad thing for you, Ken? You're not a big into the Fast and Furious series of movies?
I don't think I've seen even one.
But that's what sells cars today, too.
True.
Is the games, Gran Turismo and things like that, the kids are watching, and then they want to be part of that scene. They want to be, they want a car like that. And so I think we should make one of those, like, with classic cars, because then they'll want to buy classic cars. But I think it's the video games.
We've got mythology here, with the Silver Bullet. The stories of the Silver Bullet, I don't know if any of them are true, 0 to 60 in 0.3 seconds. It just kept getting, it's got 37 mufflers underneath it. The guys at Cadillac actually would build it. The stories get bigger and bigger and bigger, but that's the fun, the mythology of cars that, maybe we are, again, it's a renaissance period with the Shelbys and what you're seeing with Corvette and, and our friends at Stellantis with all the Hellcat program and stuff. I still want to see a CUDA. Do you guys think they'll do a CUDA?
I think that's the last big car.
Do you? Say on the same platform?
Maybe a little bit bigger and better. Ralph Gilles tells me that I'll get a phone call one day and he'll tell me to go to my dealer and place an order for something. It's going to be outrageous.
Because that wide body's like driving a semi right now. I'm not sure how much bigger they can go with that thing.
I don't know. I think it's going to be called the Barracuda, though. But I didn't hear that from Ralph.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
No. We are recording this, right? So I can use that on the podcast? All right, I'm just checking, though. But do you guys, like, when we talk about, like, what names could come back? The CUDA's obviously a big one. The GTO had a little brief run, but it was a Holden. It wasn't a GTO. Could you do? I mean, why couldn't they do a GTO? Could you come back with something like that?
It would have to be a Chevrolet.
Yeah, it really
true.
would. The thing is, I think Pontiac's gone forever, and I don't imagine they'd ever want to bring that back. But you're right. Those Holden cars, by the way, were really good cars.
Yeah, they were.
I mean, I've got an SS and I've got a G8, and I mean, you want to talk about a grocery getter that's a hot rod. I mean, they're just a blast to drive.
The Holden Ute. I love that.
I
That
think
one
they
was
could-
just a
I
cartoon.
think they could bring the Corvair back with the platform of the Vet somehow. You know, they could do something there.
Are you serious? Would you want to see that?
Yeah, I think there's. I've seen some renderings of some Corvairs that we've got actually that are really amazing.
Does it confuse you sometimes when they bring back a truck and they call it the Maverick, and you're like, but that wasn't a truck? I
Yeah,
don't
kind of the
understand.
Blazers confusing me a little bit.
Yeah, the Blazers won. What other ones do we have where like they're relabeled, they're rebadged, and you go, wait, that's not what that was.
But Chevrolet, they built rear-engine Corvettes. Didn't work out too well, but we saw those down in Amelia Island a couple of years ago, and of course the engine was sticking out so far that it almost picked the front wheels up off the ground. But it was a concept car. And Corvairs, I agree. Who saw the latest episode of Chasing Classic Cars where we had a center steering Corvair? So
Seriously?
yeah,
All right, you go back and watch that one. now.
Waimea.
I had a Corvair. My grandpa had it, and I could sit in the car, and I was at home one day, and it was just parked on the side of the house, and I got in, no key in it. I'm 14, and I go, well, I'm going to pretend to drive, like you do. I turned the car over. It started without a key. I drove the hell out of the car that summer, man. I had plenty of seat time in a Corvair, and it was gravel on the side, so all you had to do was just take a rake, and you could flatten it out. Anyone here in the panel driving before they had a license?
Oh yeah.
Right? How old? Okay, how old were you? We'll start. Bob, what about you? Well, no, you were married when you were 15, so you didn't.
I steered, but I didn't drive.
You steered, but you didn't drive.
Cousin let me steer his car. Well, he was
Your
driving.
mic.
You grab your mic there.
Your mic.
Yeah.
Your mic.
Oh, yeah, my cousin let me steer his car, but I didn't drive it. He was driving. But
Well, it's a start.
It's
What
a
about-
start.
It's a start, Chuck.
I was probably about 15.
Yeah?
You know, when I was messing around with it. Then I got my first car when I was 16 and legal, but it was probably 15. My mom and dad's car.
Did they know?
Yeah, I'd drive it around the hood there, just around the neighborhood. That
Okay.
was it. Yeah.
Just a little
to
stretch it out a little
practice.
bit.
Sure, yeah.
Ken?
It was 14 for me, and numerous times. I'm amazed I didn't get caught, believe me, but I didn't. So, and I don't know, maybe they never told me, but I don't think they ever knew I took their car out. So,
Honestly, I don't know if it was a car, but we had a construction company that we lived behind our house, and we used to go in there and drive their dump trucks and anything else we could get started. But it was probably 14-ish for me too.
Okay.
Oh, you were younger than that. He made keys for Mom's car. She worked nights, so he made a set of keys, and
Really?
he found the liquor store at like 14 in the car.
That's next level right
And
there.
I wasn't very tall either, but if you could get the money on the counter, she'd take it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we all have one. Wayne, what about you?
I grew up on a farm, so they made me drive when I was 12 years old, the tractors and trucks, because I was the cheap labor. And at 13 years old, my mother had a 61 Starfire convertible, fantastic car. And I made my own keys for it, and my parents would go out every Wednesday night to the movies, and I'd take the car out. And until one night, I pulled down the end of the street, and I looked to the right, I looked to the left, and I looked to the right again, and my father was sitting there waiting for me. It wasn't a pleasant experience.
Well, we got about 10 minutes. If you have questions, we're going to get set up there, so we'll have some folks. If you want questions, if you have any questions for our panel, come on up to the front here. We'll find you guys. I wanted to come back to the Pontiac thing. Why couldn't you do it and just don't call it a Pontiac? Just call it a GM whatever. Does it have to have that name on it? A Cuda's not going to be a Barracuda is not going to be a Plymouth. I mean, it's going to be a Barracuda. I'm sure they're just going to call it a Barracuda. It doesn't have to have that badge on it. Does that really matter anymore?
Well, I'm pretty sure they've got protections under those names and so on and so forth
Right.
that, you'd probably get in trouble with. And, I mean, I felt bad, frankly, for GM because it was the excitement brand when Pontiac went away. And so I'm sure the guys over at GM weren't real happy about the fact that it had to go away, too. So it's maybe just an example that isn't so good. But Barracuda, boy, what a missed opportunity if they don't build one of those.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and as a classic rock guy, I just want to play the song repeatedly. Do you guys, anyone else? I mean, to bring that back. By the way, this was once upon a time, but we look out at this beautiful M1 concourse, but this was a Pontiac plant. This is what this was, the footprint of this. I mean, but you think about it, Wayne, though, like, it's okay if they I don't know, but I would just love to see the Pontiac cars back.
GTOs and 442s never got the traction that a Chevelle got.
Yeah.
And maybe that's one of the reasons they don't call, a GM car a Chevelle anymore or a GTO. But GTOs, vintage GTOs are starting to gain traction now and are becoming very, very popular. I think they're fabulous cars myself. A 66, 67 GTO, I think, was one of the most beautiful cars. And with tri-power, with the exhaust coming out in front of the back wheel or the back of the back wheel. I mean, it was just, they were such cool cars back then and fast. I mean, Oldsmobiles were fast. Pontiacs were unbelievably fast, out of the box. And I wouldn't mind it. I mean, I'd love to see a GTO again.
Do you think that's also another thing for like going forward with the whole idea of resto mods and building cars for people? These custom engines, the 389 tri-power, I mean, all these amazing power plants. Is that something that's going to be more I wouldn't say more desirable, but people are going to want to personalize them even more?
I don't know. Ken said something pretty interesting today about electric. It's not something we've ever really, but I think that's going to be the next thing.
Yeah, well, if you don't know, Ford last night unveiled a power plant. They actually unveiled an electric crate motor. We won't know more about it till SEMA. We won't see all the specs and everything, but it's there. And yeah, you're right. Now you're going to need two of them if you want to do four-wheel drive, but still, that's a whole new world.
Well, the E-Ray's coming.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So that's going to be pretty exciting to have a performance car. I know, talking to my friends at Chrysler, they're working with Bose to get the sound right because they want sound related to the electric automobiles. So sound inside as well as the outside. So
we can do that. I'll just go in a recording studio and go blah, 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 blah for an hour and just loop it. That'd be fun.
You're hired.
Ken, you need me for, I can wedge right in the back of the C8 there.
Yeah, I have to tell you something. We're going to show off something at Motabella. It's going to shock a lot of people. That's all I'm going to tell you right now. So,
did you guys catch that? I think the word shock, by the way, was a little bit of a hint. Nothing? I can never get anything out of this guy. I swear. Okay. Nothing? I'm trying. We didn't have questions? Oh, no. We got a couple minutes. What? Hi, Dave.
There we go.
Come on out.
So let me steal your.
Grab the mic here real quick. We would be remiss if we don't do this as far as this presentation.
So first of all, everybody enjoy our M1 Insiders Garage. Big Jim, thank you so much.
It's an honor.
Our panelists, thank you very much for joining us. So one of the things that we're going to do with every one of our Dream Cruises events during at our Dream Show is actually give out an award. And this first year, we felt Bob Larrabee here is very deserving of an award. The award we're calling it is Master of the Cruise. Where everything that Bob has done for our hobby throughout the years of shows and car customization and collecting, I can't think of a better time for us to give a round of applause for Bob Larrabee and everything he's done to bring our hobby to life. So Bob, here you go, buddy.
Yeah.
We're calling it the Master of the Cruise. So congratulations. You're welcome.
Say something?
Absolutely.
This is a real honor, and I'm thankful for everybody that's involved with this event. I'm really happy to be here, and the fact that Paul built this great place. I think this will be a part of the future hot rod sport in Detroit. So I hope to come back many times in the future and see a lot more people and a lot more interesting cars here. So thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
we just wanted to say thank you again to everybody here at M1, to Tim and Dave and everyone here and this panel. It's an absolute honor to talk to you guys and to take the time out to be here today as we celebrate this. And this is, okay, last thing, I was thinking about this. This is what we do in Detroit better than anywhere else in the country. We celebrate cars. We celebrate the lifestyle. We celebrate the men and women who build these cars. We celebrate the cars themselves. And you guys are part of the DNA of our lives because of what you do. Don't ever think you haven't had an impression on everybody here, because you have. Whether I'm watching it on TV, drooling over the cars you build, trying to steal a Ferrari from you, looking at the Red Baron, and just every time I'm at Autorama, I think about you, Bob. Thank you for all that you've done and continue to do. On behalf of everybody here and all my friends here at CSX, God bless you guys. Thank you so much.